Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm going to be refuting the claim that the role of milk in the American diet is unnecessary. For minor claims that include the milk is linked to a lot of common health problems and milk consumption is unnecessary. I'm going to present evidence that this is simply not true. She claims that milk is linked to heartburn, which is not. She claims that milk is linked to heartburn, which is not completely true. Although milk may be linked to heartburn, as long as you drink the correct type and amount, you will not have a problem, according to WebMD and Family Education. A common natural health remedy for heartburn is calcium, which is in milk. It's also the active ingredient in most over-the-counter antacids that treat heartburn. The common problem with milk is the high fat content in it, which causes your stomach to be more acidic. As long as you drink fat-free skim milk and limit yourself to 4 ounces of milk or less, you won't have a problem. She makes the claim that 50 million Americans are lactose intolerant, this being a high number, trying to prove her claim that milk is unnecessary. But there are 350 million Americans, according to the United States Census Bureau. Only 16% of Americans are lactose intolerant then. This is a very small percentage. The majority of Americans do not have this lactose intolerant problem. For a second claim that milk consumption is unnecessary, this is not true either. First of all, her two supporting evidence have nothing to do with milk consumption being unnecessary. $4 billion being spent on advertising over the past 10 years and on milk propaganda, and milk being featured as its own food group in the American diet guidelines is pointless to her claim. According to the study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and Growing Children, long-term avoidance of cow milk is associated with small stature and poor bone health. With my own experience of milk consumption also, it was necessary for me when I was a kid, because it made me able to get more convenient calories so I did not stay underweight. Milk is used in many foods that we eat today for a balanced diet, such as cheeses, yogurt, ice cream, sour cream, gelato, butter, custard, etc. Casein protein, which makes up 80% of the protein in cow's milk, is an important part of the bodybuilder's diet. Casein protein is a slow-absorbing protein which taken at night helps prevent your body from going into a catabolic state. A catabolic state is where your body breaks down muscle tissue, such as protein, so if you're trying to gain muscle, you do not want this. In closing, the claim that the role of milk in the American diet is unnecessary is false due to the evidence and research I presented to you. Thank you.
You know what? I don't think I need this. You gave me the other. That's funny. All right, Brian, on the two issues that you do respond to, I think you do a pretty good job trying to put them into context. On the first argument on the issue of heartburn, you've got an interesting counterclaim here that says that milk actually would minimize that because of the calcium, and that the real source of the heartburn is the fat content, and that if you took the right kind of milk and limited yourself, that you shouldn't have any particular problem there. So I think that's pretty solid. I think you also want to tell us what the evidence was that the advocate used so that I can compare a little more clearly the argument that you're making here, but those sound like very good responses on that point. You also diminish the claim by pointing out that lactose intolerance is, 50 million people sounds like a lot, but out of the total population, it's relatively small. And the idea that other people would avoid this because somebody else has lactose intolerance, I think, is an interesting challenge to make. I think we talked about this before. It's sort of like if I tell you to put on a sweater because I'm cold, most of you would think that that's weird. Of course, that's a parent thing. People always do that. But obviously, you don't need the sweater. You're not cold, but I do. This is the same kind of thing here, where you're saying, "Well, I'm lactose intolerant, so you don't need milk." And I think that that's a little problematic. On the second point, I think that you had a good challenge on the evidence on spending, how it doesn't really identify whether or not milk is necessary. And then you present a good argument about the necessity for milk for bone development and structure. You've got a nice personal example to give you a little bit of credibility, and you talk about the importance of this particular protein in milk that's going to prevent this catabolic state that you mentioned. I think that argument could be developed a little bit more and talk about how important milk is in producing that. For example, if that's the primary source that people get this to prevent that from happening, then that might be, like I said, a huge advantage to milk. I think you've got good arguments on the basic points. Maybe you could do a little bit more contrast, do a little bit less reading, and I think it would be more polished then. All right.